Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the office of the Prime Minister. Questions in the chat, please, which we will take after a very, very quick update from me. It's Monday, the 30th of September, day 360 of the October 7th war. Israel's goals in this war remain crystal clear. They are bringing home our hostages, 101 people. Men, they are children, they are women, they are the elderly. Let them go now. To dismantle Hamas's capabilities and to enable all Israelis in the north and the south to return home in safety and security. On Yemen, firstly, defending ourselves against the Iranian-directed Houthis in Yemen. As you know, Israel was attacked over the weekend by powerful Houthi ballistic missiles. Yesterday, dozens of Israeli Air Force aircraft set out 2,000 kilometers away. Fighter jets and refueling aircraft to strike Houthi terrorist targets in Ras Issa and Hudaydah in Yemen, including power plants, a seaport that are used by Houthis to import oil for military purposes sent by Iran. All of our pilots, thankfully, and aircraft returned home safely to their bases. Israel is strong and we are ready. We were caught off guard on October 7th, but the enemies of Israel should know now, not anymore. In Lebanon, with the successful targeting of arch killer Nasrallah deep underground in his bunker. And likewise in Yemen at a distance of almost 2,000 kilometers. This is a multi-arena war. For a year now, since October 7th, we have faced Iran on 7 different fronts. So whether it's defense or offense, there is nowhere that Israel will not reach in defense of this country. There is nowhere that Israel will not reach in defense of this country. Until when? For as long as we are attacked. Israel is in essence a peaceful nation. We will always put our first hand out in peace to our neighbors and to the region. But Israel will not stop until our war goals have been achieved. Next, an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza. Since the beginning of the war, 54,000 truckloads and 10,000 pallets have delivered 1,060,000 tons of aid. 70% has been food. That's 3,000 calories per person, which enters Gaza every single day, according to independent analysis. And currently, the contents of around 500 trucks are awaiting to be collected on the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom by the thoroughly inefficient United Nations. You can get all the details of Israel's humanitarian efforts on COGAT's website. So that's the end of our quick briefing this today. I'll now take your questions. Please put them in the chat together with your news outlet. Okay, first question here is from David Clement at the News Forum in Canada. Can you provide any comment or additional information about the death of Fatah Sheriff Abu Alamin in Lebanon? Thank you for that question, David. Let me share what the information I have with me right now. You can get more from the IDF's Telegram feed where they have all the latest information there. But let me tell you who this was. Just yesterday, the IDF targeted the Hamas leader in Lebanon. He was a Hamas leader in Lebanon, Faith Esharif. He was a terrorist principal and the head also of UNRWA's Teacher Association in Lebanon. So a terrorist and also an UNRWA teacher. He was eliminated in an Israeli airstrike in Lebanon yesterday. So we say loudly and clearly to UNRWA and to its head, Philip Lazzarini, what on earth is a terrorist doing as one of your teachers? Now, we've documented very widely now the crimes of UNRWA, the fact that they are a front for Hamas. This is another example of UNRWA officials actually being terrorists as well, this time a teacher. Next question is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Firstly, the J Street Group in the US is backing a bill in Congress to restore UNRWA funding to UNRWA, saying that it can be reformed. Does Israel have any comment on that legislation? Firstly, Joel, thank you for that question. All of us saw here that you recently gave birth, you and your to a boy, so we wish you, of course, mazel tov on that. Congratulations. In answer to your question regarding UNRWA, no, UNRWA cannot be reformed. It is not just a case of a few rotten apples. It is a whole rotten orchard. Unfortunately, the root and branch reform that will be needed to reform UNRWA is wildly optimistic. It simply isn't possible. We believe that UNRWA is part of the problem. We've listed the crimes of UNRWA on the 5th and the 6th of August. We finally saw some stunning admissions hidden in the last lines of an anonymous press release. The fact that UNRWA staff actually took part in the October 7th massacre. We know that their schools are used by Hamas. We know that their server farm actually sat underneath the UNRWA headquarters. This was passed off by Lazzarini as being, oh, well, there are tunnels anywhere. No, there was a Hamas server farm, a computer server farm, a data farm underneath UNRWA's headquarters. It is simply impossible to reform this organization. Yes, of course, there needs to be proper oversight to ensure that aid gets to Gazans who need it to build a better future after this war. That is absolutely needed. Yes, of course, and Israel will back that, any genuine efforts to support Gazans people. But UNRWA, unfortunately, is a front for Hamas. Their leaders constantly turn a blind eye to terror. They don't even call Hamas a terrorist organization. It's as bad as that. No, we don't believe that UNRWA can be reformed. Second, former White House advisor Jared Kushner suggested this week that with Hezbollah in trouble, Iran's nuclear program is defenseless. Would Israel take this opportunity to attack Iran's nuclear program? Well, Joel, thank you for that opportunity to share our plans regarding Iran, or whatever we have planned for Iran. Let me share with you our current thoughts about Iran. We know that the Iranian axis of evil has formed a stranglehold against this country. It's a ring of armed terror armies. It's Hezbollah in Lebanon, it's Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and other militias. Now, we are on extremely high alert, defensively and offensively. And we are exacting a heavy price for this Iranian aggression against us from whatever arena. Our government is mandated to defend this country, and that is precisely what we are doing. That is what every decent government, any responsible government around the world would do in our position. We live in an extremely dangerous neighborhood. We've had 60 to 70,000 of our people evacuated from their homes, evicted from their own homes, from sovereign Israeli territory. Our mission is extremely clear. It is not controversial. Those people need to be allowed to return home to their own homes in northern Israel. Those children need to be allowed to return to the schools where they've been evicted from for a year now. And our people need to be able to return to their businesses and their livelihoods in our own sovereign territory. This is the very basic element of any government's responsibility to its people, to defend our people. That is precisely what we were doing. Near or far, Israel's capabilities, Israel's military capabilities are formidable. Israel is strong, and we will defend ourselves. Okay, next question is from Mark Weiss from Khan Radio here in Israel. When was the last sign of life from Yahya Sinwar? Thank you for that question, Mark. I haven't got any particular information on that point. Sinwar is an evil terrorist behind the October 7th massacre. No doubt he is looking around at other evil terrorists like Nasrallah right now, and the message will be extremely clear. We believe that the action against Nasrallah will have put pressure on Hamas to make that deal, to release our hostages. Remember, the war would be over in Gaza immediately if Hamas released our hostages immediately, 101 people, let them go now, and laid down its arms. We have already shattered almost all of Hamas's fighting battalions. Sinwar should know what will happen to him if he continues in the way which he is doing. This country has a responsibility to defend itself. Our war aims are very, very clear: to destroy Hamas, its military and governing capabilities. We have shattered the Hamas as a military force, and we will achieve all of our war aims. Next, from David Stout at AFP, Agence France Presse, can you speak about the deployment of troops on our northern border? Thank you very much for that question, David. Let me share with you our responsibility on our northern border. We've been very, very clear about what's going on up there. The IDF is ready for all scenarios. We should be completely clear about that. Israel always acts in accordance with the directives. Our army always acts in accordance with the directives of the goals set by the government. We are a democracy, and Israel's democratically elected government has set about the goal, a clear goal, to get our people in northern Israel home. Now, that requires removing the imminent threat, driving Hezbollah away from our northern border in accordance with United Nations Resolution 1701. It was signed but never implemented, and targeted operations to decapitate the organization's leadership are ongoing. They are happening right now as we speak. It's our duty to defend ourselves. Any country in our position would do the same thing. We've had 9,500 rockets, UAVs and drones from Lebanon. We have no border dispute with Lebanon. We should make that absolutely clear. It is now incumbent on Lebanon's government to remove Hezbollah from its south, to be pushed behind the Litani River, as the United Nations resolutions say, 1559 and 1701, Israel is ready to do whatever is necessary, whether it's through diplomacy or through military action, to get to that objective, to get our people home. Next question is from Cormac from RTE Ireland. What is the likelihood of a ground invasion of Lebanon by Israel? Thank you for that question, Cormac. I've already answered that just a moment ago. Question from Hannah Julian. What can you tell us about the IDF Special Forces incursions into Lebanon, if anything? Does this mean a ground operation is likely soon? Thank you for that question, Hannah. I've dealt with that question about our actions in the north. I've just answered that question. Next question is from Jim Williams at Zenga International News Service in Washington, D.C. Today in an interview with NBC, retired Admiral James de Freitas, also served as the commander of NATO, said that in the West, many do not understand the power of Hezbollah. Israel must be free to defeat this powerful Iranian proxy, not only free for the safety of Israel, but also for the safety of US and the UA and the EU. Does the Admiral's comments, are they in line with the Prime Minister's comments? Thank you for that question, Jim. Look, on Hezbollah, Israel is prepared both defensively and offensively. Hezbollah's command structure has been eliminated from the leader of the organization to the commanders of its operational arrays. So far, thousands of terror targets in Lebanon have been hit, including strategic weapons located in the heart of the civilian population that Nasrallah put them there. It's a double war crime, hiding their missiles in civilian population inside people's homes, and of course firing at us, at our own civilians from those locations, a double war crime. So that means that Israel is ready immediately now to defend this country. We are defending this country. We know that these weapons, these Hezbollah weapons, are ready. They are primed and ready to be launched at our population centres here in Israel. We have a duty to defend ourselves. That is what every single country around the world will do, and that is precisely what we were doing, what we are doing. Look, from this podium for the last year now, we have said again and again and again, we urge Lebanon to take control of its southern border, to push Hezbollah back, to stop Hezbollah firing at us. They have not done that. We have urged them for an entire year. And this idea about, Hezbollah's demands that they won't stop fighting us until there's a ceasefire in Gaza. Just a reminder that, this concern, this pseudo-concern for Palestinians. Palestinians in Lebanon have never, ever been granted Lebanese citizenship under law. So this seems like a very strange linkage in the government's opinion of concern for the Palestinians. Palestinians have never, even though they've lived there for 76 years, they've never been granted Lebanese citizenship. So thanks to Lebanon, 76 years on now, these Palestinians remain stateless. So it's a little bit rich to link the issue of Gaza with Hezbollah's firing upon us. So these refugees, these Palestinians, that includes many that arrived from what is now Israel as early as 1948 during the Arab-Israeli wars and their descendants. So, let's dispense of this false linkage. It's Iran, it's the Houthis, it's Hezbollah, it's Hamas, it's pathological Israel hatred. Iran say it very clearly. There is a timer, a countdown timer, in a square in Tehran, which is counting down to the destruction of this country. Hezbollah say very openly, it's part of their essence, they wish to destroy this country. It's in the motto of the Houthis that they wish death to all Jews, is what they say. They wish to destroy this country. Israel is in a situation right now that when people set out to destroy us, when they say they wish to destroy us, we believe them. We think they're telling the truth. That is why our responsibility is to defend this country, and that is precisely what we will do. A follow-up question from Cormac from RTE in Ireland. In your strikes against Hezbollah and Hamas operatives, how, besides text and public messaging, does Israel, at the point of attack, ensure that no civilians are killed? Thank you very much for that question, Cormac. You work for RTE, of course, which is a state-owned broadcaster. And none of us here in Israel have forgotten the fact that very soon after the October 7th massacre, the Republic of Ireland took the decision to back the terrorists rather than the peacemakers. They decided to support the actions of the terrorists by announcing their support for a Palestinian state. None of us here in Israel will forget that. None of us here in Israel also remember that it was Ireland that signed the condolence book for Adolf Hitler. None of us here in Israel also can forget that your population is can be counted, the Jewish population of Ireland can be counted on one hand or a couple of hands and feet. There's a reason for all these. There's a common denominator here. So we'll take no lessons whatsoever from Ireland in their support for terrorism. It is support for terrorism. If you, after the October 7th massacre, decide to support the terrorists, then you are in support of the terrorists. But particularly, let me share with you some of the things that we've done in terms of our efforts. You talk about text messaging and public messaging. Okay, phone calls, millions of them. Okay, no other country has done this. Absolutely, bar none, no other country has done this in order to limit as much as humanly possible the effect on civilians, while of course remembering that both Hamas and Hezbollah, they want civilian deaths. That's precisely what they desire. They think that will support them in their public relations efforts. That is precisely what they want. So phone calls, millions of them, text messages, leaflet drops, websites. They are also websites and radio broadcasts as well. So even, for instance, the strike against Nasrallah, the arch terrorists, where the element of surprise was, of course, absolutely key. When we struck Nasrallah and the senior terrorists who were with him, that too was done in accordance with international law. Hezbollah has built its central command headquarters underneath residential buildings in the very heart of Beirut. It's in clear violation of international law. So we are, of course, not at war with the people of Lebanon. It's very important to remember that. We have our border with Lebanon is precisely where the United Nations asked for it to be. That's known as the Blue Line. So we're not at war with the people of Lebanon, and civilians are never the target. And wherever is possible, we can and we do give advance warnings, even when it costs us the element of surprise. Now, when it was against Nasrallah, the strike was targeted as much as possible. There are ways which I can't talk about yet in terms of how specifically it was targeted. We aren't able to divulge all of our intelligence capabilities right now, but the message to our enemies across the region should be extremely clear. We can hit our enemies wherever they hide. The IDF is ready both offensively and defensively for any scenario. Okay, I think that looks like the last question. I've taken all the questions, so thank you for joining us. The next briefing will be at the same time tomorrow, so please do stay safe, and in the meantime, thank you very much. Bye-bye now.